Former New York Ranger Derek Stepan has retired. We are celebrating his career by looking back at some of his most incredible moments as a member of the New York Rangers. All this and more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 902 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, with the news that broke the last couple of days, that it certainly looks like Derek Stepan has called it a career. Multiple outlets have reported that. And, we haven't gotten the official announcement from Derek Stepan, to my knowledge. I know a lot of people these days, they'll often take to, a social media website of their choice. We saw Carl Hagelin maybe about a week or two ago, whatever it was. He announced his retirement, did a really nice Instagram post, had pictures of him playing hockey from throughout his entire career and really throughout his entire life. We haven't gotten anything quite like that from Derek Stepan, at least as of yet. But again, there are multiple outlets that are reporting that Stepan is joining the Minnesota Wild in a scouting capacity. And there was actually a picture of Stepan sitting in the press box during one of their rookie games, similar to what the Rangers and Flyers just did. So I guess maybe we're at a point where it's not officially official just yet, but all signs point to Derek Stepan hanging up his skates, including this tweet from Michael Russo of The Athletic. He said, "Years of me campaigning for the Minnesota Wild to sign Derek Stepan finally worked. Stepan is shadowing Bill Guerin and the Wild staff, and the plan is for him to work with them in some capacity soon. Guerin and Stepan live by each other, so they joked it's bring your neighbor to work day." So again, maybe not quite officially official, but all signs certainly point to Derek Stepan having played his last game in the NHL at the age of 33. If you connect all the dots, that's the conclusion that you can certainly come to at this point. And obviously, all our best wishes to Derek Stepan if he has indeed retired. I figured today it's a good day to kind of give him a proper send-off and just kind of give thanks to him. Spent a lot of time with the New York Rangers, 7 seasons in New York, and was a heck of a player while he was here. Obviously, you hear Derek Stepan, the first thing that comes to your mind is the Game 7 overtime winner against the Washington Capitals, and don't worry, we will get to that. But to kind of go through his story, his career, his most clutch moments as a New York Ranger. Once again, I felt like it was appropriate to spend an episode doing exactly that. So to kind of take it from the top here, Derek Stepan, drafted by the Rangers in the second round back in 2008. He was the number 51 overall pick that year. This was after he spent 2 years playing hockey at Wisconsin, 81 college games there with 21 goals and 66 assists. And as far as, how the Rangers fared, kind of put you back in the time period, so to speak, how they fared in the 2008 draft. You had, in the first round, the Rangers took Michael Del Zotto at number 20. Not like a disaster pick or anything like that, but I think the Rangers were maybe expecting Del Zotto, who had a lengthy career. I mean, let's give him props where it's due, but I think they were expecting him to become more of a pillar for their team than he ultimately did. So Del Zotto in the first round, then you had Derek Stepan going in the second round once again at number 51 overall. An interesting stat from that draft, though, not counting players that were drafted in the first round that year, Derek Stepan was the first player from any other round of that draft to reach 600 career NHL games. So that's kind of a fun fact there. And Derek Stepan, obviously a lengthy and very productive career. As far as the rest of this Ranger draft class, we'll run through it quick here. It's a lot of people that you've barely heard of or maybe never heard of. Third round, Evgeny Grachev at number 75. Also in the third round to the Rangers, Tomas Kondracek at number 90. Then you had Dale Weiss, I believe it is. He actually played a decent amount of time in the NHL, but just not with the Rangers. He was in the fourth round at number 111. Chris Doyle in the fifth round at 141. Mitch Galton in the sixth round at 171. And that's it as far as that draft class is concerned. So Derek Stepan, clearly the cream of the crop for the New York Rangers and their draft picks that season. But Derek Stepan, if this is indeed the end, which it looks like it is, as far as his playing career in the NHL, 890 career NHL regular season games for Stepan. Spent 7 years with the Rangers. He was actually only 20 when he made his debut, which I don't really remember him debuting at that young of an age, but obviously that's a fact, and that's probably also why he's only 33 right now, and it feels like he should be older than that. Like, when I saw that he was retiring, I kind of figured he was like 35, 36-ish. But no, Derek Stepan, only 33 years old. But yeah, spent the first 7 years of his career with the Rangers, went to the Coyotes for 3 years, won with the Senators, and then his final 2 seasons, what turned out to be his final 2 seasons, with the Carolina Hurricanes. And once again, 890 career regular season games, 182 goals, 333 assists, so 515 points. He was also a plus 98, averaged 1705 of ice time per night throughout his career, 476 block shots, 630 hits, and 516 takeaways against 356 giveaways. And then another 120 career Stanley Cup playoff games for Derek Stepan. 97 of those came with the New York Rangers. And in those 120 games, 20 goals, 35 assists for 55 career points in Stanley Cup playoff action. This whole, number, all these stats, this includes 24 games with the Rangers in 2013, 2014. That's the year that the Rangers went to the Stanley Cup final. And during that run, Derek Stepan had 5 goals and 10 assists. As far as, career awards and accolades, so as a 20-year-old rookie, he was 13th in Calder voting for Rookie of the Year that year. Got some Selke votes over the course of his career. The Selke, of course, goes to the best defensive forward. That includes 2012, 2013, when he was with the Rangers, finished 9th in Selke voting. Also a 22nd place finish and a 40th place finish for the Selke while he was with the Rangers. Got some Lady Bing votes over the years as well. That goes to the player for, most gentlemanly conduct. I don't have the exact verbiage in front of me, but that's basically the long and short of it. Finished as high as number 7 with the Rangers in 2012, 2013, the same year that he was number 9 in Selke voting. For what it's worth, also gold medal winner in the World Juniors with the United States back in 2010. He was the captain of that team, and he had 4 goals and 10 assists in 7 games. So just absolutely dominated there. And speaking of captaincy, was also an alternate captain for his last 3 seasons with the Rangers, became an alternate with the Coyotes as well. But that's just kind of a brief overview of Derek Stepan and, his path throughout hockey, collegiate and NHL. And in just a second, I want to go ahead and kind of revisit the trade, because I know a lot of Ranger fans were upset when the Rangers traded Derek Stepan. It's one of those things where, I wasn't happy about it, but you kind of understand why they did it. And I'm going to elaborate on that in just a second. We're going to talk more about, again, just his path through hockey. And I think the most fun part of this episode, we're going to save that for last. We're going to take a look at his most clutch moments. I think everybody has an idea of what number 1 is going to be. It's pretty obvious, unless you're new to the Rangers, which some of you might be. But I think just about everybody knows what's going to be number 1 when we do that countdown at the end of today's episode. But for right now, we do have to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens is something that I take every single day. I gave it a try because I wanted to see what all the hype was about, and I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. I drink AG1 every morning. It's the first thing I do when I wake up. I drink it before recording Locked On Rangers. I drink it before the day job. I drink it before I do anything active. It's pretty much a must-have when it comes to the start of my day at this point. And all great athletes have one thing in common. They take care of their bodies. And a huge part of that starts with optimizing whole body health. A lot of them also drink AG1, and it's why I'm a huge fan. With every daily serving, I'm setting myself up for success with 75 high-quality ingredients that give me high daily nutrients and support energy, focus, strength, and clarity. It's a micro habit that delivers macro benefits and helps just about everybody take great care of their health every single day. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/NHL Network. That's drinkag1.com/NHL Network and check it out. All right, we just want to go ahead and thank everybody, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And for the everydayers, you guys are definitely going to want to stick around. We got one more episode coming for you guys this week. Peter Laviolette is set to meet with the media before training camp begins on Thursday. So looking forward to that. Training camp as well as La Violette, taking questions. We're going to be covering that in Friday's episode, as well as also on Friday's episode, just putting together a list of things that I'd really like to see from the Rangers throughout the 6-game preseason schedule. But we'll save that for the last episode of the week, Friday's episode. For right now, once again, giving props and celebrating the career of Derek Stepan. So I wanted to revisit the trade because, a little bit controversial at the time. And for anybody who needs a refresher, the full details of the Derek Stepan trade from the Rangers to the Arizona Coyotes. The Rangers traded Stepan and Antti Raanta to the Coyotes in exchange for Tony DeAngelo and the number 7 overall pick in the 2017 NHL draft. And unfortunately, that draft pick turned out to be Lias Andersson. And I'm not trying to be mean here, but to put it very mildly, it did not work out for Lias Andersson with the New York Rangers. So not one of their better draft picks. As far as why this happened, the short answer is the expansion draft. This is part of why the Rangers made this deal. You can only protect so many players in the NHL draft. And the Rangers having Antti Raanta, they were in a situation where they basically had to trade him or lose him because the Rangers were always going to protect Henrik Lundqvist. At the time I saw people saying things like, oh, just protect Raanta and assume they won't take Lundqvist. And it's like, no, are you crazy? Like, we can't do that. And that wouldn't send a good message either. Because, Lundqvist was starting to get a little bit older at that point. But be that as it may, you always had to protect Lundqvist. That should have never even been a debate. But Antti Raanta was coming off of 2 really strong seasons with the Rangers as Henrik Lundqvist's backup, put up really good numbers. And it was very obvious that he was going to be unprotected by the Rangers and taken by the Knights in that year's expansion draft. So rather than let that happen, the Rangers, I think wisely, look to trade Antti Raanta. It's either we lose him for nothing or we trade him and we get something. And unfortunately, somewhat unfortunately, that trade ended up also involving Derek Stepan. And the two of them go to the Coyotes in exchange for Tony DeAngelo and once again, the number 7 overall pick. The other reason why I think maybe this happened, I get the feeling that the Rangers probably felt like Derek Stepan had kind of peaked as an NHL player. Always a really good player for the Rangers. Take nothing away. I was a big Stepan fan and one of my favorite players while he was here. But I feel like the Rangers probably felt like he had hit his ceiling and they wanted to facilitate this trade, get a defenseman, young defenseman with some upside like Tony DeAngelo had, as well as a very high draft pick. And, they pulled the trigger on that trade and they did it. And as far as Derek Stepan hitting his ceiling, the Rangers weren't really wrong. I mean, after he left the Rangers, he had one more, really good season with the Coyotes. And after that, still an effective player throughout the rest of his career, but could never produce the kind of offensive numbers that he did during his time with the Rangers. He was still valuable as a bottom 6 forward and a penalty killer, but was never, a top 6 bona fide player the way that he was with the Rangers, at least not after the first season with the Arizona Coyotes. So that's why the trade happened. I'll still see every now and then, people say, man, the Rangers really messed up with that trade. I can't even really go that far with it because, again, Derek Stepan's production really kind of dropped, after the first season with the Coyotes. And, it didn't really lead to any success with the Arizona Coyotes as far as, that trade is concerned. Raanta, he was very good in his time with the Coyotes. But again, the Rangers, they couldn't keep him. It was either trade him or lose him for absolutely nothing. They chose to trade him. So I can't really kill the Rangers for that. Tony DeAngelo, I mean, you guys know he was a mixed bag here. He obviously did some good things and had some big moments, but at times was also probably his own worst enemy, and Rangers ran out of patience there, and he's long gone from the New York Rangers. And Lias Andersson, I mean, do we even really need to get into it? I'll just say this, 17 points in 110 career NHL games between the Rangers and the Kings. An interesting footnote to this whole thing, though, when the Rangers traded Lias Andersson to the Los Angeles Kings, they somehow got a second-round draft pick in return for him, and they used that pick to select Will Cooley. And Will Cooley is a highly thought-of prospect for the Rangers. So the Rangers might yet, if we keep connecting the dots and going through this trade tree here, they might yet actually get something out of this. So we'll see how it all pans out for Will Cooley. But a lot of people were sad to see Derek Stepan go, and Raanta too. Both popular, well-liked players while they were here. But I think it was just a situation where it was kind of a necessary evil. Could the Rangers have found a way to trade Antti Raanta? Because they had to trade him. Could they have found a way to trade Raanta without also moving Stepan? Possibly, but they saw a trade here that they liked and they went with it. And again, Stepan, he only had one more big-time season after he left the Rangers. So as popular as Stepan was and as sad as I was to see him go, they weren't wrong when they felt like, Stepan had kind of reached his full potential. And I guess, maybe was a candidate for a quicker decline than most players. I know something that was always kind of, lacking for Stepan was his skating ability, but he obviously found a way around that and found a way to make it work as a top six forward for the Rangers for 7 years before he was ultimately traded to the Coyotes. Something else that really stands out for me for Derek Stepan was his consistency. I mentioned the first season that he had with the Coyotes, still a very good player there. But if you combine his last 4 seasons with the Rangers and his first season with the Coyotes, so 5 years there, Stepan in all 5 of those seasons had between 53 and 57 points. They're not stellar, like Hall of Fame worthy numbers, but just very, very consistent. You combine that with the fact that he was a very good defensive forward as well, somebody that could kill penalties. And, that's obviously a heck of a player. And the Rangers, like I said, they hit on that second round draft pick, taking Derek Stepan, got 7 years out of him, 7 very productive years. And Derek Stepan, a key member of some of those Ranger teams that went on some deep runs, including the 2014 team that made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. I think, injuries probably hurt him as well. He had the broken jaw with the Rangers. More on that in a second as well. Dislocated his shoulder when he was with the Senators. He was only with the Senators for 1 year, but dislocated his shoulder. Had to have surgery to repair a damaged labrum. He broke his leg while he was with the Rangers. I believe that was actually the same season as the year that he broke his jaw, if I'm remembering that correctly. The broken leg was before the season started, and it was during practice and a non-contact drill. So just one of those fluky things that can happen. And then he also, this past season with the Canes had an upper body injury with them. He made it back and played in some playoff games. But the injuries certainly were starting to pile up for Derek Stepan. And as I mentioned earlier, I touched on this for just a brief second. The offense disappeared for Stepan basically after his first year with the Coyotes. But again, the fact that he could kill penalties, the fact that he could play a bottom 6 role, give you a little bit of depth, very well liked in the locker room, and somebody with a lot of playoff experience, all those things kept him relevant and kept him in the league for quite some time here. I mean, I know he's only 33 and hanging the skates up here, but, you combine all the injuries and everything, I'm sure that played a role in Derek Stepan's decline. So, it's unfortunate that he has to retire a little too early. And unlike Carl Hagelin, who we talked about in a recent episode, Hagelin obviously got the 2 Stanley Cups with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Derek Stepan never got the Stanley Cup. He at least made it to the finals in 2014 with the Rangers. And, playing for the Canes these past 2 years, I was happy to see Stepan at least latch on with a contending team and at least have a shot at it. The Canes, of course, made it to the Eastern Conference Final this past season before they were swept by the Florida Panthers. But there's actually a moment. We're going to look at Derek Stepan's most clutch moments in just a second. And all of them are with the Rangers, except for one that was with the Carolina Hurricanes. It actually turned out to be the final point that he recorded in his NHL career. And we're going to get to that, all that fun stuff in just a second. But first, got to let everybody know, today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Birddogs. Birddogs make you look good. Birddogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Birddog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. Birddogs fix this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice any movement. Birddogs uses anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Birddogs are functional for any occasion. You name it, Birddogs have you covered. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnXXX or enter promo code LockedOnXXX at checkout for a free Birddogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnXXX for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take off your Birddogs. We promise you. All right, so like I said, I think a fun way and an appropriate way to wrap up this Derek Stepan tribute episode is to take a look back at some of his most clutch moments, more with the Rangers than with anywhere else, but I do have to throw in one from the Carolina Hurricanes. I've got 4 moments here, and we're going to go through them all. Number 4, it's with the Carolina Hurricanes this past season in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're playing the New York Islanders in the first round of the playoffs. It goes to Game 6 in New York, and the Canes are up 3-2. Game goes into overtime, and the final point of Derek Stepan's NHL career, and in fact, the only point that he had this past year in the playoffs, turns out to be a primary assist on an overtime series clinching goal. So that's quite a way to go out. But basically, the Islanders have the puck in their own zone, and Derek Stepan, a great play, anticipating the play, reading the play. He intercepts a clearing attempt by the Islanders in the overtime period, passes in deep to Paul Stastny, and Stastny, a heck of a goal here, scored from just an impossible angle, so he'll get the headlines and everything with the overtime winner, but it doesn't happen without an outstanding defensive play by Derek Stepan and a quick pass as well. So props to Stepan there. He eliminates the despised New York Islanders. So even after he left the Rangers, still doing us Ranger fans a solid there, helping take out the Islanders in the first round. Number 3, I mean, how about a hat trick in your NHL debut? Because Derek Stepan accomplished that feat on October 9th, 2010, scores the first 3 goals of his career. He did this in a 6-3 Ranger win over the Buffalo Sabres. And who was in net for the Sabres for that game? Well, that would be Ryan Miller. It wasn't just, some random goalie that you barely remember, some journeyman player. No, this is Ryan Miller, and this is prime Ryan Miller. He was coming off of a Vezina trophy the season prior, and there's 20-year-old Derek Stepan making his NHL debut and burning him for 3 goals. So obviously a very impressive debut for Derek Stepan, to say the very least. To kind of walk through the goals here and kind of, just highlight everything that he did here and put you guys back in the time period. The first goal, you had Sean Avery passing the puck back to Dan Girardi. Avery was in there behind the goal line. Back to Dan Girardi. Girardi takes a shot. It deflects off of Stepan and then deflected off of a Sabre defenseman and went into the net. So a little bit of a lucky bounce there, but I mean, hey, they all count. And I think for your first NHL goal in your debut, you'll take it any way you can get it. So that was the first goal that happened in the first period. The second goal occurred in the second period. You get a turnover by the Sabres. Mark Stahl takes a shot from the blue line. The save is made, but Derek Stepan is there to bury the rebound. Even after his second goal, he looked like he was in disbelief, just like could not believe 2 goals in his NHL debut. And then to complete the hat trick, this also happened in the second period. You got Dan Girardi playing the puck behind the net to Sean Avery. Avery spins, makes a backhand pass in front of the net to Derek Stepan, and Stepan stuffs it home from the slot there. And this game was on the road. It was in Buffalo. It would have been cool if it was in Madison Square Garden, but whatever. It can't always be perfect. But per Sam Rosen, I went back and watched this on YouTube. Per Sam Rosen, Derek Stepan ended up getting 4 hats out of the deal because they were on the road. So a couple of people are going to throw their hats. I'm sure there's some Ranger fans there as well. I just wonder if he still has all 4 of those hats. You got to think that he would, right? I mean, it's a memento from his first NHL game, and he had to have held on to those, right? I'd love to ask him that, but yeah, obviously, just an amazing debut for Derek Stepan, and kind of set the tone for the player that he would end up becoming for the New York Rangers. It's not like he's somebody that was stuffing the score sheet every single night, but again, a very solid player for the Rangers while he was here, and somebody who was offering centering the top line for the Rangers, and rightfully so. Number 2, this isn't really a moment as much as it is like kind of a series of games, so to speak. Let me explain what I mean. So Derek Stepan, in addition to everything that I've mentioned, also a very tough player, and that was on full display in the Eastern Conference Final back in 2014 against the Montreal Canadiens. Derek Stepan in Game 3 of that series broke his jaw on a hit by former New York Ranger Brandon Prust, and Stepan actually returned to that game. That was Game 3. He did sit out for Game 4, but he came back in Game 5 in Montreal. He had, a special helmet made and like this yellow, like chin strap, jaw protecting kind of thing. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm sure a lot of you remember seeing that. And if not, you can Google it. I mean, it's easy enough to find a picture of him, wearing that special helmet. But Game 5, the Rangers, this is Stepan's return to the lineup after breaking his jaw in Game 3. Rangers at this point are up 3-1 in the series. The game is in Montreal. They ended up losing this game 7-4, but Derek Stepan goes back, again, just 2 games after he broke his jaw. He goes out there, and what does he do? Yeah, he scores 2 goals for the New York Rangers. First one on a wrist shot that tied the game at 1-1 in the first period. And then he added a rebound goal in the second period. That cut the Canadiens' lead to 4-3. Rangers ended up tying it at 4. Canadiens ended up winning 7-4. And yeah, they lost that game, obviously, but they won the next one. They won Game 6 to go to the Stanley Cup final. And tell me those players on the Rangers, all his teammates, tell me those guys weren't ready to basically skate through a brick wall after seeing their teammate, break his jaw and then come back into the lineup 2 games later and go out there and score 2 goals. That was just a fantastic performance by Derek Stepan, and toughness and skill both on full display in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final against the Montreal Canadiens. And then number one, I mean, what else could it possibly be? There's no debate to be had here. This is probably as easy of a ranking as we do rankings on here. I'll do like top fives, top tens. And obviously, I try to do it in the best order that I can. And I'll kind of debate with myself, should this be number one? Should this be like top five? All that good stuff. This is the easiest placement of anything I've ever had on this show. Number one, clutch moment for Derek Stepan. Yeah, 2015 Stanley Cup playoffs, second round, game 7, overtime against the Washington Capitals. I'll go ahead and describe this play as if we all haven't watched it at least 100 times each. But basically, face off in the Capitals zone. I'm actually going to go back to the face off before the face off that won it. So the Rangers, they had the puck in the Cap zone. There's a face off. And Stepan actually loses this faceoff, but a great job by Jesper Fast on this play. He pressured the puck immediately. The puck was along the boards, and he kind of made the Capitals hurry, and they had to take another icing. So I think back-to-back icings there, and the puck is back in the Capital zone for another faceoff on the right faceoff circle. This time, Stepan wins the faceoff, gets a little bit of an assist there from Derek Stepan. Stepan got in there and was helping, or Fast got in there and was helping Stepan kind of dig the puck free. Stepan wins it back to Keith Yandle. Yandle's along the boards. Yandle immediately pivots, passes to his left to Dan Girardi. Girardi's at the blue line, right in the center of the ice, winds back and blasts a one-timer. Save made by Holtby. Rebound goes right to Derek Stepan, who had moved over to the left side of the ice. Great instincts there by Stepan, and puck goes right to him, and he buries the rebound. Pretty high in top shelf into the net there. Holtby, diving desperation attempt to try to knock the puck down, but he couldn't do it. Derek Stepan scores, and we all go crazy. I think I woke up anybody within a 3-mile radius when Derek Stepan scored that goal. Just an awesome moment, an unforgettable moment, and not at all an exaggeration to say one of the best, most clutch moments in the history of the New York Rangers. I mean, I was going to say like in overtime or in playoff overtime. No, just in the history of the Rangers, one of the biggest moments, one of the most clutch moments that we will ever see. And it's one of those things, we did our episode earlier this offseason where I asked you guys to describe who you were with and what you were doing and how you reacted when Derek Stepan scored that goal. And that was a ton of fun. But it's one of those things, if you experience that, you will not forget it. Just an amazing moment for Derek Stepan and for the New York Rangers. And I got to say, it's kind of sad to see all these guys from the 2014 Eastern Conference team, kind of wrapping it up and calling it a career. Some of them have been retired for some time now. Nash, comes to mind for sure. But Hagelin and Stepan, within a couple weeks of each other in the same offseason, they were both young, energetic players on the New York Rangers when that team was going to the finals, and now they're both retiring. So it is kind of sad. But I always enjoy doing these episodes. They're always a little bit bittersweet because it is sad anytime somebody on a team that you really loved, a player that you really liked, anytime that they have to retire. And we've also done some episodes where, somebody's on the Rangers for a whole bunch of years and they sign somewhere else in free agency or get traded, whatever the case might be. But hopefully, I did right by Derek Stepan here today, and hopefully you guys enjoyed kind of reminiscing on some of his best moments as a New York Ranger. I've heard from a lot of you guys that have told me that Derek Stepan is one of your favorite players, if not your favorite player. So, again, hopefully I did right by Derek Stepan here today, and we'll send him out with style here on Locked On New York Rangers. But to kind of wrap up today's episode, I wanted to mention Rangers training camp schedule. They're going to be out there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Looks like Thursday there's going to be 6 different groups, and then on Friday and Saturday there will be 3 different groups. I already mentioned that Peter Laviolette is set to speak ahead of the first training camp session. We'll cover that in our next episode, and we'll also go over the training camp roster. It's everything you would expect. It's all the established players and all the draft picks. Pretty much everybody is there. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And again, just got to thank you guys very much for helping get the Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel past 2,000 subscribers. Looking forward to seeing that number continue to grow. And again, everybody that's subscribed, thank you so much for that. If you haven't subscribed, if you'd be so kind, obviously we would really appreciate it. But yeah, that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.